North Korea is one of the most isolated countries in the world. It has one of the most brutal dictatorships, and it is also home to one of the largest armies on Earth. But how did this country become the way that it is today? Well, let's find out. But before we do, let me ask you guys for a favor. This is a new channel, and so any support would be greatly appreciated. Ancient and medieval Korea. The three kingdoms of Korea were a collection of three Korean-speaking states located on the southern half of the Korean Peninsula. These kingdoms were Goguryeo, Baekje, and Shil. For centuries, these three kingdoms fought over land until Silla eventually won. Following this victory, the kingdom of Goryeo was established in 918. At its peak, the Goryeo dynasty stretched from north of the Yellow Sea to the Sea of Japan. During the Goryeo dynasty, Korea had invented metal movable type, which was an invention about 50 years before Gutenberg's printing press in Europe. However, a series of weak rulers led to the Goryeo dynasty becoming more and more corrupt, and eventually they lost control of northern Korea to the rising power of Jurchen people in 1170. Despite this loss of territory, the Goryeo dynasty lasted until 1392, when it was replaced by the Joseon dynasty, which is the longest-lasting Korean dynasty with 500 years of rule. It was during the Joseon dynasty that Korea developed into an agricultural society and its culture began to flourish. One notable event during this time was the arrival of European missionaries and traders, which had a significant impact on Korean culture. Japanese colonial rule. By the late 19th century, Korea found itself caught in the middle of two great powers, Russia and Japan, who both wanted to influence the region. In 1905, Japan forced Korea to sign an agreement that essentially made Korea a protectorate of Japan. 2 years later, Japan annexed Korea, ending the Joseon dynasty and beginning Japanese colonial rule. During this time, the Japanese government implemented a series of policies aimed at suppressing Korean culture and exploiting the colony for its natural resources. Koreans were forbidden from speaking their language or practicing their religion, and many were forced into hard labor. However, the harsh treatment of Koreans by the Japanese government led to a growing desire for independence. As the Second World War began, many Koreans joined the resistance movement against Japanese rule. Following Japan's defeat in the war, Korea was liberated from Japanese rule in 1945. Division of Korea. After the Second World War, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel, with the Soviet Union administering the North and the United States administering the South. This division was meant to be temporary, but soon it became clear that the two superpowers had different plans for the Korean Peninsula. The Soviet Union began to install a communist government in the north under the leadership of Kim Il-sung, while the United States supported a pro-Western government in the south under the leadership of Syngman Rhee. As tensions grew between the two Koreas, it became clear that war was inevitable. On June 1950, North Korean troops crossed over the 38th parallel and began to push south. This marked the beginning of the Korean War. The Korean War. The Korean War was a conflict between North Korea and South Korea, supported by their respective allies. The war began in 1950 when North Korean troops crossed the 38th parallel and invaded the South. The conflict quickly escalated, leading to major battles such as the Battle of Incheon and the Battle of Chosin Reservoir. The war was highly destructive, resulting in the deaths of millions of people and leaving much of the Korean Peninsula devastated. Eventually, an armistice was signed in 1953, which established a demilitarized zone along the 38th parallel. The war had significant consequences for the Korean Peninsula. It solidified the division of the peninsula into two separate states, and it also led to the creation of a strong anti-communist alliance between the United States and South Korea. Additionally, the war had a profound impact on the political and social landscape of East Asia, contributing to the rise of China as a major power in the region. Cold War era. Following the end of the Korean War, North Korea became a communist dictatorship under the leadership of Kim Il-sung. The country's economy was heavily influenced by the Soviet Union, and North Korea became increasingly isolated from the rest of the world. Despite the hardships faced by its citizens, North Korea continued to develop its military capabilities and became known for its large army and nuclear weapons program. As the Cold War era came to a close, North Korea remained one of the most secretive and isolated countries in the world. Its government continued to suppress human rights, and its nuclear program remained a source of international tension. However, despite the challenges, North Korea has also made some efforts to engage with the international community, such as participating in the six-party talks aimed at denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. North Korea, after the Cold War. Since the end of the Cold War, North Korea has continued to be one of the most isolated and secretive countries in the world. Under the leadership of Kim Jong-un, North Korea has conducted several nuclear tests and launched missiles capable of reaching the United States. The country's economy has struggled due to a combination of factors, including international sanctions and the government's mismanagement. Despite these challenges, North Korea continues to invest heavily in its military and has one of the largest armies in the world. The country's government remains highly repressive, and there are very few freedoms for its citizens. International efforts to engage North Korea in denuclearization talks have been unsuccessful, and the situation remains a source of tension on the Korean Peninsula. 21st century North Korea. In recent years, North Korea has continued to provoke international condemnation due to its nuclear weapons program and human rights abuses. Despite international sanctions and diplomatic efforts to curb its activities, North Korea has conducted several missile tests and has also been accused of using forced labor and executing political prisoners. The country's leader, Kim Jong-un, has maintained a cult-like personality and has consolidated power within the country. Despite the international pressure, North Korea has continued to develop its nuclear weapons program, raising concerns about the possibility of a nuclear arms race in the region. The country's economic situation has also been precarious with food shortages and widespread poverty. However, North Korea continues to prioritize military spending over the welfare of its citizens. Life inside North Korea. Life in North Korea is heavily influenced by the country's political system, which is characterized by a cult of personality surrounding the country's leaders and a strict one-party state. Citizens are subject to constant surveillance and propaganda and are expected to show unwavering loyalty to the government. The economy is centrally planned and tightly controlled, which has resulted in widespread poverty and food insecurity. Education is used as a tool to indoctrinate citizens into the ruling ideology, and the media is heavily censored, limiting access to information. Despite these challenges, ordinary North Koreans have developed various coping mechanisms to navigate their everyday lives, such as maintaining a facade of loyalty to the regime and engaging in black market activities to supplement their income. There is also a vibrant underground culture that exists outside of the government's control, such as listening to foreign music and watching smuggled movies. However, those who are caught engaging in these activities can face severe punishment. Modern challenges. North Korea faces numerous modern challenges, including international condemnation over its human rights abuses and nuclear weapons program, economic sanctions that have crippled its economy, and a lack of access to basic goods and services for its citizens. The country's leadership has responded to these challenges by doubling down on its authoritarian policies and pursuing a path of self-reliance known as Jong-il. This has resulted in a complete breakdown in diplomatic relations with the international community and a continued deterioration of the country's infrastructure and living standards. Despite these challenges, North Korea continues to prioritize its military and has one of the largest armies in the world. This leaves the country vulnerable to accusations of wasting resources that could be used to improve the lives of its citizens. Additionally, North Korea's nuclear weapons program has raised tensions on the Korean Peninsula and has led to fears of a nuclear arms race in East Asia. Future outlook. The future of North Korea is uncertain and depends on a variety of factors, including the actions of its leadership, the policies of its neighbors, and the willingness of the international community to engage in diplomatic efforts. Some experts believe that North Korea will continue to pursue its current path of isolationism and authoritarian rule, while others believe that the country may eventually open up to the outside world and transition to a more democratic system. The legacy of foreign intervention in the Korean Peninsula and the division of the country following the end of World War II have left a lasting impact on North Korea's identity and politics. The country's history is marked by periods of foreign domination, including Japanese colonial rule and the division of the Korean Peninsula into North and South Korea during the Cold War. These experiences have shaped North Korea's national identity and its foreign policy, which emphasizes self-reliance and non-alignment with Western powers. Despite international condemnation of its human rights record and nuclear weapons program, North Korea has remained steadfast in its commitment to its ideology of Jong-il or self-reliance, and has continued to develop its nuclear capabilities in defiance of international sanctions. Conclusion. North Korea is a complex and enigmatic country that has been shaped by a turbulent history. From its ancient origins as a cultural and economic hub of East Asia to its modern-day status as a totalitarian dictatorship with a nuclear weapons program, North Korea's story is one of resilience, adaptation, and defiance. Despite the challenges it faces, North Korea continues to assert its identity on the world stage, raising questions about the future of the Korean Peninsula and the role of foreign intervention in shaping national identity. Whether North Korea will ultimately choose engagement or isolation, cooperation or confrontation, remains to be seen. That's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and please consider liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks again, and see you next time.